At Christmas dinner, my wealthy grandpa handed each of us a check. My parents laughed, saying, "It's just for show, another fake check." I just smiled. The soft glow of the recessed lighting in the cypress room did little to dispel the chill that had settled deep in my bones. I paused, my fingers tightening around the carefully wrapped box in my hand, its crisp corners digging slightly into my palm. Through the frosted glass panel of the door, I caught fragmented, blurry glimpses of my family already seated at the long, polished mahogany table, a tableau of inherited privilege and casual expectation. The faint, almost ethereal clink of expensive crystal carried through the thick wood of the door, a silent testament to the server pouring another round of wine into sparkling goblets. 8 years. 8 long, arduous years. 8 years of dutifully answering every frantic call, of meticulously solving every self-inflicted crisis, of emptying my painstakingly managed accounts at their slightest, most entitled whim. Tonight, I thought, was supposed to be different. Tonight, I had foolishly convinced myself, was about showing them that all those quiet sacrifices, all those unspoken acts of devotion were worth it. That I, finally, was worth it. I smoothed down the sleek black fabric of my dress, a silent ritual of preparation, took a deep, fortifying breath that did little to calm the frantic flutter in my chest, and pushed open the heavy door. My mother, Eleonora, sat regally at one end of the table, her posture impeccable, her perfectly coiffed silver hair catching the light. Her critical gaze, honed over decades of scrutinizing every detail, landed on me immediately, sweeping from my polished heels to my carefully styled hair, already searching for flaws, for imperfections to dissect later. Her lips, painted a precise, perfect berry red, pursed almost imperceptibly, a silent judgment. Next to her, my older brother, Preston, swirled his expensive wine in a crystal glass, a knowing, superior smirk playing on his lips, the exact same expression he'd worn since we were children, since he first understood his elevated place in our mother's unwavering regard. My younger brother, Spencer, looked up from his phone, his face quickly arranging itself into an expression of exaggerated, almost theatrical delight that predictably didn't quite reach his eyes. "Camille finally decided to show up," he chirped, his voice a little too loud, a little too jovial, a practice performance for the room. Only my father, Harrison Collins, brightened genuinely at my arrival. He stood, his arms outstretched in a familiar, comforting gesture, his smile widening as he spotted the carefully wrapped gift in my hands. "There's my girl," he said warmly, his voice a comforting balm in the subtly hostile atmosphere. I made my way around the table, offering brief, polite nods to the others, a silent acknowledgement of their presence, a truce I initiated before reaching my father. "Happy birthday, Dad." His embrace was tight, sincere, a momentary haven of authentic affection, the only real warmth in the room. For a brief, fleeting moment, a foolish, desperate part of me allowed myself to believe that this dinner, tonight, might actually be different. That tonight, finally, all my efforts, all my unspoken pleas for recognition, would finally be seen, acknowledged. That I would, at last, be seen as something more than just their personal ATM. I handed him the carefully wrapped box, its weight a testament to the thought and effort I'd put into selecting and procuring its contents. "This is for you." "You didn't have to get me anything, Camille," he said, but his eyes, crinkled at the corners, gleamed with genuine pleasure, betraying his words. I slid into the only empty chair, placed deliberately at the very end of the table, directly opposite my mother. The symbolism was stark, undeniable. I was isolated, physically separated from their cohesive, self-absorbed unit, a solitary figure relegated to the periphery. A chill, cold and sharp, ran through me despite the warmth of the room. Even our seating arrangement, I realized with a fresh pang of familiar hurt, made it abundantly clear that I wasn't truly part of their unit. The server, a young woman with a polite, professional demeanor, appeared at my elbow, a welcome distraction. "Would you like to start with something to drink, miss?" "Yes, she'll have the house white," my mother interrupted smoothly, her voice saccharine sweet, yet laced with its usual insidious condescension. Camille never could tell the difference between wines. I forced a smile, a brittle, practiced curve of my lips, my jaw aching with the effort. "Actually, I'll have the Cabernet. The 2018 vintage, please." Eleonora's smile tightened, almost imperceptibly, a hairline fracture in her perfectly composed facade. "Must be nice," she murmured, her voice dripping with an almost casual cruelty, "to have disposable income without real responsibilities. Like children." The familiar knot, a tight, painful ball of anxiety and simmering resentment, formed deep in my stomach. I'd been at this table for less than 5 minutes. "I'd like to order a second appetizer for the table," I said, deliberately changing the subject. My voice clipped, determined not to rise to her bait. Preston rolled his eyes, a theatrical display of disdain. "Of course you would, Camille. Always showing off." My mind, unbidden, flashed back to my very first bonus as an investment analyst. I was 22, fresh out of college, beaming with pride at landing a coveted position at a prestigious firm. That $10,000 hard-earned was meant to be the cornerstone of my investment portfolio, a crucial first step toward building my own financial security, my own independent future. Then came the hysterical, tear-soaked call from my mother. "The bank is foreclosing, Camille. We'll lose the house. Your father is too proud to ask, but we need help." The relief I felt after wiring the entire bonus, every last penny, to them was immediate, overwhelming, almost intoxicating. Their gratitude, effusive and seemingly genuine, had made me feel like a hero, the indispensable one. I was the responsible daughter, the fixer, the reliable safety net they could always count on. Julian, my then boyfriend, a kind, insightful man, had seen through it all long before I ever did. "They're using you, Cam," he'd said one night, his voice laced with concern, after I had to cancel our anniversary dinner to bail Preston out of yet another self-inflicted financial mess. "This pattern won't stop until you make it stop." I dismissed his concerns, pushing them away with a practiced ease, convinced he simply didn't understand the sacred bonds of family. "Family comes first," I told myself, a mantra I clung to with desperate loyalty, with a desperate need to believe. 3 months later, Julian, tired of competing with the invisible, all-consuming demands of my family, was gone. Back in the present, Spencer was now regaling everyone with a boisterous story about his latest, fleeting girlfriend. "She's absolutely crazy about me," he boasted, winking conspicuously in my direction. "Some people just get it, you know?" "Speaking of getting it," Preston interjected, his smirk widening as he caught my eye, a glint of predatory amusement in his gaze. "Did Dad tell you about my new investment opportunity? It's going to be huge." I noticed, with a fresh wave of quiet irritation, that both of my brothers were deliberately, ostentatiously, drinking the expensive Cabernet I'd ordered, the one Mom claimed I couldn't distinguish from a house wine. Preston took a long, deliberate sip, maintaining eye contact with me, his gaze challenging, knowing full well I was covering the entire exorbitant bill. The dinner, a protracted, exhausting charade, continued its slow, painful progression to the gift exchange. Preston, with an almost theatrical flourish, presented Dad with a set of generic grilling tools, still in their cheap plastic store packaging. "Perfect for those Sunday cookouts," he announced proudly, as if he'd bestowed upon Dad something truly extraordinary, something of immense value. Spencer's gift was predictably narcissistic. A framed photo of himself with Dad at a baseball game last year, a game I predictably hadn't been invited to. "To remember our special day," Spencer said, his eyes wide with manufactured innocence, "a performance for the room." When Dad unwrapped my gift, the vintage 1950s Hamilton watch I had spent months meticulously hunting down, a rare find, the room went silent. It was a masterpiece of mid-century design, its intricate silver case gleaming softly under the restaurant lights, the rich, supple leather strap warm to the touch. "Camille?" my father whispered, his eyes welling up with genuine emotion, betraying a sentimentality I rarely saw. This is too much." I felt a familiar flush of pride warm my cheeks, a brief, intoxicating moment of validation, immediately followed by a cold, sharp chill as I noticed my mother's face hardening, resentment etching itself deeper into the fine lines around her mouth, her gaze fixed on the watch. "Well," Eleonora said, her voice dripping with an almost casual cruelty, a smile, thin and brittle, playing on her lips, "I suppose when you don't have a husband or a family of your own to support, you can afford to buy whatever you want." The table went silent again, this time with a collective, uncomfortable gasp. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. "That's not fair, Mom," I said, my voice shaking, trying desperately to hold back the torrent of emotion threatening to engulf me. "Not fair." She laughed lightly, the sound brittle, utterly devoid of genuine humor. "What's not fair, Camille, is how you flaunt your money, how you use it to make us feel small. You're trying to buy your father's love. I paid for his surgery." The words burst out, raw and unfiltered, before I could stop them, the dam finally cracking. "I'm paying for this entire dinner." "There it is," Eleonora's voice rose, sharp and triumphant, laced with a familiar indignation, always keeping score. "You want to know the truth? You're pathetic. You're a lonely, bitter woman. And you want to know why? You're not even part of this family. I turned desperately to Preston, my eyes silently pleading for support, for some acknowledgement of the grotesque unfairness unfolding before me. He deliberately looked away, a small knowing smirk playing on his lips as he took a long slow sip of the $120 Cabernet I was paying for. And suddenly, with perfect agonizing clarity, I saw the truth. This pattern, this insidious cycle of exploitation and neglect, would never, ever end. The crises would keep coming. The demands would never stop. The goalposts would always move. I wasn't family. I was their bank. And banks, I realized with a strange, icy calm settling over me, had the absolute, unassailable power to foreclose. I walked out of the Cypress room with my head held high, a rigid mask of composure, despite the violent internal trembling in my hands. The maitre d', a young woman with a kind, sympathetic expression, nodded discreetly as I approached the payment desk, her eyes darting toward the private dining room, where my family's voices, now a cacophony of raised tones, still carried faintly a rising tide of indignation. "Is everything all right, Miss Collins?" she asked softly, her voice filled with genuine concern, already pulling up the reservation details on her screen. "Perfect," I said, forcing a calm into my voice that I didn't feel, a brittle mask. "I'd like to make a change to the payment arrangement." I pulled 2 crisp $100 bills from my wallet, sliding them across the counter to the server who had appeared discreetly beside us, her face a carefully neutral mask. "Please charge my meal and Mr. Harrison Collins' meal to my card." My voice dropped to a near whisper, ensuring absolute privacy, that no one else in the bustling restaurant could overhear. "The remaining bill for 6 guests, please deliver it directly to Mrs. Eleanora Collins." The server's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise and dawning understanding, but she nodded, tucking the cash discreetly into her apron pocket. "Absolutely, Miss Collins. Is there anything else?" "That's all," I said, feeling a strange, intoxicating lightness as I turned toward the exit, a profound sense of liberation. "Please wait until I've left to deliver the final bill." Outside, the night air felt electric against my skin, cold and sharp, a welcome contrast to the suffocating, stale atmosphere of the restaurant. My phone buzzed repeatedly in my purse before I even reached my car, the insistent vibration a familiar harbinger of my family's immediate outrage, their furious retaliation. 6 missed calls. All from Eleanora. I started the engine, the powerful hum of the Mercedes a comforting rumble beneath me, a symbol of my independence, but I didn't drive immediately. My fingers hovered over the screen, about to silence the persistent ringing, when a text notification appeared. It wasn't from my mother or my brothers. It was from my cousin Alicia, a distant, rarely seen relative, a quiet, observant soul. "Did you see what they were saying about you in the family group chat?" Family group chat? My breath hitched, a cold dread creeping through me. I stared at the screen, a new kind of betrayal washing over me. What family group chat? Alicia's follow-up text contained a series of screenshots, each one a fresh stab to my heart, the timestamp showing messages from 3 hours before tonight's dinner. Preston, Camille booked the private room at the Cypress Room. Spencer, awesome. She just got that promotion. Time to launder the bonus. Hope she gets the good steak. Eleanora, boys be nice. Your sister is just trying. 3 simple dots after, just trying. Just those 3 innocuous dots and not a single word more, somehow contained all the dismissal, all the condescension, all the casual cruelty I'd felt for years, encapsulated in a single damning phrase. They planned this. I realized with a fresh wave of sick nausea, a profound sense of shock. They coordinated their attack, meticulously calculated how to extract maximum financial and emotional benefit, all while simultaneously making me feel small, worthless, an inconvenient necessity. My mother. My own mother. The phone buzzed again, a fresh wave of incoming calls, a vengeful chorus. 7 missed calls now. I pulled out of the restaurant parking lot, driving mindlessly through the familiar, glittering streets, until I reached my apartment building, a haven of quiet anonymity. The familiar, comforting quiet of my modest studio apartment welcomed me, a stark contrast to the opulent, emotionally charged atmosphere of the Cypress Room. But tonight it felt different. Not lonely. Peaceful. And so, I poured myself a generous glass of red wine, not the expensive Cabernet, but an affordable, comforting blend that tasted of home, and finally pressed play on the first voicemail. "How dare you embarrass me like that?" Eleanora's voice filled the room, vibrating with a raw, unbridled rage. "After everything I have done for you, you ungrateful, selfish..." I deleted the message before she could finish, then the next and the next, each one more venomous than the last, not a single apology among them, not a hint of remorse for their own actions. When I reached the end, I did something I'd never done before, an act of profound self-preservation. I blocked her number. The silence that followed was momentous, profound, sacred almost. I opened my laptop and navigated to my favorite travel site. 10 minutes later, I had booked a flight to Italy. 10 glorious, liberating days in Tuscany, the trip I'd dreamed about since college but always put off because family emergencies inevitably took precedence, always demanding my attention, my resources. With Eleonora's voice finally silenced, banished from my life, my mind suddenly felt razor-sharp, clear, unburdened. I pulled out my financial records, spreading them across my kitchen table, the damning evidence of my exploitation laid bare in stark black and white. $30,000 from my 401k for Dad's emergency spinal surgery 3 years ago, the very same surgery his insurance would have covered if they'd paid their premiums instead of taking that lavish Alaskan cruise. $15,000 for back due property taxes on a house I didn't even live in, a house that was a symbol of their pretense. $10,000 loaned to Preston's doomed business venture that he never mentioned again, just quietly absorbed into the ever-growing family debt. Thousands more for car repairs, for overdue utility bills, for Spencer's endless textbooks for degrees he never finished, never bothered to complete. I did the calculations twice, the numbers adding up to a staggering sum. My retirement, I realized, had been set back 5 years. 5 years of my future, stolen from me, years I'd never get back. But the financial loss, I understood, paled in comparison to the insidious emotional manipulation. The canceled dates with Julian, the missed promotions because I was too distracted, too consumed by their manufactured family drama to focus on my own burgeoning career. The perpetual, suffocating anxiety that came with every phone call, every unexpected text, wondering what new crisis awaited me this time. The next morning, I sat in Dr. Annabelle Croft's office, her consulting room a sanctuary of calm, her presence radiating a quiet strength. My hands were clasped tightly in my lap, a nervous habit I was determined to break. "I'm free," I said, the words feeling foreign, almost alien on my tongue, unfamiliar with such liberation. So why do I still feel this crushing guilt, this inexplicable emptiness? I don't know who I am if I'm not their problem solver. Dr. Croft, a kind, astute woman, studied me over her glasses, her gaze penetrating yet empathetic. Because problem solver was a role you played, Camille. It gave you a purpose, a defined identity within that family dynamic. But it wasn't you. Our job now is to find out who Camille actually is beyond that role. My phone, silenced but visible, lit up with a text. "Julian. Heard about what happened at the restaurant. Are you okay?" I smiled, a genuine, unforced smile, appreciating his concern, but not ready to respond yet. That evening, Spencer predictably launched his counterattack. An email notification appeared on my phone. "Spencer Collins has tagged you in a GoFundMe campaign." The title, designed for maximum emotional impact, screamed, "Family betrayed by narcissist sister." The description, carefully crafted with a victim narrative, painted me as a villain, a heartless monster who had cruelly abandoned her poor, suffering family in their time of direst need. I reported it for fraud within minutes. By midnight, the page was gone, scrubbed from the internet. An anonymous email arrived shortly after, from Spencer's personal account. "You're a monster. You won't help, and now you actively sabotage us? You'll regret this." I read it twice, my eyes scanning the words, waiting for the familiar, gut-wrenching panic to set in. The suffocating guilt, the desperate need to fix things, to smooth over the ripples. It didn't come. Instead, something hard, cold, and utterly resolute solidified within me, a profound clarity I had never known. The threat, I realized, had the precise opposite effect they intended. It solidified my resolve. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without dreaming, without the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. No anxiety jolting me awake at 3 a.m. No frantic checking of my phone for missed emergency calls. Just peace. And the profound, exhilarating knowledge that tomorrow, I would begin building a life that was truly, unapologetically mine. 2 days later, I stared at my phone, scrolling through Eleonora's latest Facebook post. A black and white photo of her, artfully posed, gazing wistfully out a window, her profile a picture of elegant sorrow. The caption, dripping with passive aggression, read, "The deepest wounds come from those we love most. How can an ungrateful child abandon the very family who sacrificed everything for them? #broken heart, #family first." The comments section, a predictable echo chamber, overflowed with sympathy. Old family friends, distant relatives, even my third-grade teacher, Mrs. Peterson, offering prayers and support. My stomach twisted as I read Mrs. Peterson's response. Sending love, Eleonora. Some children forget where they came from. I set down my phone and took a deep, steadying breath, Dr. Croft's calm voice echoing in my mind. This is exactly what we discussed. Public shame as a control mechanism. The old, rarely used landline rang, its jarring sound a relic from another era. It was the one number I hadn't thought to block. I let it ring 4 times before I answered, my heart bracing for the inevitable. 3 of your mother's friends called me today, Julian said, his voice without preamble, cutting straight to the chase. Apparently, I'm dating a monster who abandoned her poor family. I'm sorry, I whispered, the familiar guilt stirring, a ghost of its former power. Don't be, he cut in, his voice softening, a warmth spreading through the phone. I told them all to go to hell. He paused. How are you holding up? Before I could answer, my work line buzzed, demanding my attention. I have to go, I told Julian. Work emergency. But it wasn't work. It was Marianne from reception, her voice tight with discomfort. Camille, your brother Spencer is in the lobby. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's insisting on seeing you. Says it's a family emergency. Ice flooded my veins. Tell him I'm in a meeting. I'll call him later. I did, Marianne replied apologetically, but he said he'll wait all day if necessary. I peered through the glass walls of my office toward the elevator bank. Sure enough, Spencer lounged against the reception desk, a charming, practiced smile firmly in place as he chatted up Marianne's assistant, a predator circling its prey. My hands shook as I gathered my laptop and files, a sudden, primal urge to escape. There was a back stairwell that led directly to the parking garage. I'd never used it before today. Later that evening, a cream-colored envelope, thick and substantial, arrived in my mailbox. I recognized Eleonora's elegant, flowing handwriting immediately. For a moment, I considered simply throwing it away, unopened, unread, consigning it to the trash. Instead, I carried it inside, setting it on the kitchen counter while I poured a glass of wine, the ritual a calming balm. The letter was 5 pages long, meticulously handwritten on Eleonora's monogram stationery, thick, expensive paper that rustled delicately in my hands. My dearest daughter, it began. After much reflection and several sessions with my spiritual counselor, I've come to understand how my own deep-seated insecurities may have contributed to our current situation. Growing up with a critical mother myself, I now see how I might have unintentionally repeated those patterns. I read each carefully crafted word, noting with a detached analysis how she managed to sound profoundly remorseful without actually apologizing for anything specific. The letter meandered through childhood memories, philosophical musings about mother-daughter relationships, and vague, sweeping references to healing our bond. It was the postscript, hastily added in different ink, almost an afterthought, that revealed the cold, calculated truth. P.S. Your father misses you terribly and the property tax bill is due next month. I didn't tear the letter. I didn't crumple it. Instead, I walked calmly to my desk, retrieved a pair of scissors, and methodically cut it into precise, tiny squares. The confetti rained into my trash can, surprisingly satisfying, a quiet act of profound finality. The next morning I made 3 phone calls. First, to my bank, setting up an automatic transfer of $500 monthly into my depleted retirement account. A small but significant act of self-care, of rebuilding my own future. Second, to Rachel, one of the few friends who genuinely bridged my family world and personal life, a mutual acquaintance who understood the complex nuances of my complicated history. I need to ask you something important, I told her, my voice firm. I need you to agree not to discuss my family with me. No updates, no messages from them, no well-meaning attempts to reconcile us. Her pause spoke volumes. They've been calling you, haven't they? Everyone except Dad, I confirmed. Consider it done, Camille, she said finally, her voice firm, resolute. Your family is now a forbidden topic. The third call was to register for pottery classes, something I'd wanted to try since college but never had time for, always derailed by another family emergency. That evening my phone lit up with Dad's name. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Cammy? His voice sounded older, more tired than I remembered, a tremor of vulnerability I hadn't heard before. Hi Dad, I said, my voice soft. I miss you. 3 simple words that cut deeper than Eleonora's entire 5-page letter, stirring a profound ache in my chest. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I miss you too, Dad, I whispered. But I cannot come back, not as long as you choose to stay there. We're a family, Cam, he countered, his voice pleading, clinging to the old narrative. Family sticks together, through thick and thin. Is that what happened at my birthday dinner for you? I asked, the question hanging in the air, weighted with years of unspoken hurt. When Mom said those things to me, did family stick together, then? The silence stretched between us, long and heavy, filled with the ghosts of past hurts. I could hear him breathing, the slight wheeze from his left lung that never quite healed after the pneumonia 3 years ago. Another crisis I'd managed, another hospital bill I'd quietly covered. I heard what she said, he admitted finally, his voice small, defeated. I should have stopped her. But you didn't, I stated, not as an accusation but as a plain, undeniable fact. No, I didn't. The truth hung between us, painful but necessary, finally acknowledged. I love you, Dad, I said, meaning every word. But I won't be your human sacrifice anymore. After we hung up, I curled into a ball on my couch, allowing myself exactly 10 minutes to cry, to grieve the family I had lost, the one I had never truly had. Then I washed my face, changed into clean, comfortable clothes, and headed out to meet Julian for coffee. The cafe was busy, a lively hum of conversation, sun streaming through large windows. Julian waved from a corner table, 2 mugs already waiting. No romantic expectations, just the solid comfort of someone who knew the whole truth, who saw me for who I was. You look better, he said, studying my face, his eyes kind, less haunted. I smiled, realizing he was right. I felt lighter. I should have done more, Julian said suddenly, his eyes serious, a flicker of regret. I'm sorry I left instead of helping you see what was happening. That was the easy way out. You tried, I reminded him gently. I wasn't ready to listen. The property tax deadline came and went. I marked it on my calendar with a small red X, bracing myself for the inevitable onslaught. It arrived precisely 3 days later when Preston's name flashed on my phone screen. I answered, setting him on speaker while I continued preparing dinner, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables a calming counterpoint to his fury. They might lose the house because of you. His voice boomed through my kitchen, familiar in its righteous anger. I sprinkled salt over the chicken breast sizzling in my pan. No, Preston. They might lose the house because they didn't pay their taxes. There's a difference. How can you be so cold? After everything they've done for you? What exactly have they done for me, Preston? I flipped the chicken, admiring the golden crust. Name 3 things. His sputtering filled the silence, a desperate scramble for justification, for an answer he couldn't produce. That's what I thought, I said, surprised by the steady confidence in my voice. Goodbye, Preston. I hung up, waiting for the familiar wave of guilt to crash over me. It didn't come. Instead, I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, emergency description. Column C, amount. I began meticulously entering the first major withdrawal, my initial bonus at 22, and worked forward, methodically, dispassionately. By midnight, I had documented $73,450 in loans and gifts over 8 years. Next to this spreadsheet, I opened my calendar, marking every vacation, every date, every personal event canceled for family emergencies. The pattern was stark, undeniable, a brutal testament to their relentless demands. Not a single important moment in my life remained untouched by their needs. 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane to Italy, the trip I'd dreamed of since college. The photos Julian took showed a woman I barely recognized, smiling genuinely, shoulders relaxed, eyes clear and unburdened. In one, taken at a small cafe in Florence, I'm laughing, head thrown back, completely present in the moment. Dr. Croft smiled when I showed her the pictures during our session. That's what freedom looks like, Camille. The holiday season approached, a time once synonymous with family obligation and emotional manipulation. For the first time in my adult life, I confidently declined Eleonora's formal Thanksgiving invitation. Instead, I hosted a small, intimate gathering of friends in my apartment. Julian, Camila, Rachel, and a few new friends from my pottery class. There was no family drama, no walking on eggshells, no calculating the emotional cost of each interaction. Just laughter, good food, and genuine connection. To freedom, Julian toasted, raising his glass with a knowing smile. Later that night, scrolling through Instagram, I saw Eleonora's perfectly staged family photo, Harrison looking uncomfortable in a sweater I'd never seen before, Preston and Spencer flanking him, their smiles tight, forced. The caption read, "So sad when a family is broken apart by selfishness." We miss those who should be here. Just months ago, this would have sent me spiraling into guilt and shame, questioning my every decision. Tonight, I just felt a quiet sadness, a clear confirmation of my mother's unwavering victim complex. I closed the app and slept soundly. The call from Beatrice, Preston's wife, came out of nowhere on a Tuesday morning in December. "Camille?" Her voice was thick with tears, barely coherent. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I didn't know who else to call." I stepped away from my desk, moving to the privacy of the stairwell, my heart immediately bracing itself for another crisis. "What's wrong?" "It's Preston," she sobbed, her words tumbling out in a rush. "He's been lying to me. He just admitted he's $10,000 in debt to you from a failed investment, and now he's demanding I sell my car to cover new debts. He keeps blaming you for cutting him off and ruining his finances." The revelation, though painful, didn't surprise me. Preston had always lived beyond his means, confident that someone, usually me, would always bail him out. "Beatrice," I said, keeping my voice calm and measured, drawing on Dr. Croft's teachings. "I am truly sorry you're in this position, but that is between you and Preston. I'm not involved. But if you could just help us." "No." The word, once so difficult to utter, came easily now, a firm, unwavering wall. "I can't fix this for you. Preston needs to face his own financial choices." After we hung up, I sat on the stairs, processing the raw, unsettling truth. The family was finally turning on each other, their internal dynamics fracturing now that their ATM was permanently closed. It's both a vindication and a profound sadness rolled into one. Back at my desk, an email from Maria, my senior manager, waited for me. "Camille, can we meet to discuss the Harrington acquisition? We're considering you for project lead." The opportunity was exactly what I'd been working toward. A major promotion with significant responsibility, higher pay, and yes, longer hours. My hand hovered over the keyboard. The old Camille script played in my head. "I can't. I need to be available for emergencies." That evening in Dr. Croft's office, I paced by the window, the city lights twinkling below. "What's holding you back, Camille?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm, watching me with that penetrating gaze. "I've always been the one they could count on," I confessed, my voice barely a whisper. "What if someone needs me and I'm stuck in meetings, unreachable?" Dr. Croft leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. "Whose emergency are you actually afraid of missing, Camille? Is it your family's? Or is it your own?" The question stopped me cold. "Mine," I repeated, a dawning realization. The emergency of feeling needed. Of having purpose through solving other people's problems. The truth of it settled in my chest, a heavy, undeniable weight. I'd built my entire identity around being the fixer, the crisis manager, the indispensable one. Without that role, who was I? "I think," I said slowly, hesitantly, "I'm afraid of finding out who I am when I'm not saving everyone else." The next morning I emailed Maria. I'd be honored to lead the Harrington acquisition. 3 months later, I was standing at a podium at the annual Financial Services Conference, leading a panel on emerging market investments. My voice was steady, confident, resonating with a newfound authority. The room was packed with industry leaders, their faces attentive, and I felt a strange, exhilarating sense of belonging, a camaraderie I had never experienced in my own family. At the reception afterward, a man approached me with 2 glasses of champagne. "Impressive panel," he said, offering me one. "I especially liked your point about sustainable development funds." "Thank you," I accepted the glass, noticing his warm eyes and easy smile. "Rowan Barnes," he introduced himself. "Architectural Development Partners." "Camille Collins. Westridge Investments." Our conversation flowed easily, seamlessly, about work, about design trends and financial districts, about our shared love of Italian espresso. Not once did we mention family drama or emergencies or obligations. It was just 2 professionals connecting over mutual interests, an effortless, unburdened conversation. When he asked for my card, I felt a flutter of interest, an excitement that had nothing to do with needing to save him or fix his problems. He was successful, stable, my equal. That night in my apartment, I stared at his business card, a tangible symbol of how much my life had changed. My old life, I realized, was fading away, replaced by something I never thought possible. Independence. Harrison called less frequently now, and when he did, the conversations had subtly shifted. "How's work, Cammy?" he asked, genuine interest in his voice, not just veiled inquiry. "Good," I replied. "Challenging but good. I'm leading a major acquisition." "That's wonderful." He paused, a slight hesitation. I started seeing someone. A therapist, I mean. The admission surprised me, a crack in his rigid facade. That's great, Dad. Yeah, well, he chuckled, a self-deprecating sound. Turns out I have some things to work through. Spencer's emails had stopped entirely. Preston was radio silent. Eleonora remained a blocked number. The silence used to feel like punishment, like an aching emptiness. Now it felt peaceful, a quiet balm to my soul. As I placed Rowan's card on my nightstand, I realized I was no longer waiting for the next crisis call. I was just living my life. And it was enough. The evening sun painted golden streaks across my penthouse windows, casting long, warm shadows across the sleek, modern furniture. 2 years since that fateful birthday dinner, and sometimes I still couldn't believe this view was mine. 40 floors up, the city sprawled beneath me, a glittering tapestry, a constellation of lights just beginning to twinkle as dusk settled, transforming the urban landscape into a vibrant, living canvas. I traced my fingers along the cool, smooth granite countertop of my kitchen island, savoring the tactile sensation. Photos from my life after the Collins family collapse lined the walls. Me hiking through sun-dappled Tuscan hills, my face radiant with genuine joy, me laughing with colleagues at my promotion celebration, a bottle of champagne in hand. Quiet evenings spent with true friends who expected nothing but my authentic company. Rowan appeared from the kitchen, 2 chilled champagne flutes in hand, his easy smile crinkling the corners of his warm, brown eyes. To the new partner, he said, extending a glass toward me. I accepted it with a smile that felt natural, effortless, nothing like the strained expressions I manufactured for family gatherings. It still doesn't feel real sometimes. Which part? He asks, leaning against the window frame, his arm casually brushing mine. The promotion or the life? Both, I admit. Remember my old studio apartment? Rowan nods. We'd met after I'd already begun reclaiming my life, but he's seen the photos, the cramped space where I'd lived, while sending thousands to my family. The contrast between then and now isn't just in square footage. It's in the profound lightness I carry, an unburdened spirit. My phone buzzes on the counter. I glance down, surprised to see blocked call with a voicemail notification. Technology glitches sometimes, I think, a small smirk playing on my lips. Eleonora's occasional desperate attempts still broke through the digital barriers. I pick up the phone and delete the voicemail without listening to it. Your mom again? Rowan asks, not needing details. Probably. I shrug, adding her newest number to my block list. The gesture takes seconds, requires no emotional energy. 2 years ago, each call would have triggered hours of gut-wrenching anxiety. Rowan raises his glass. To us. To us, I echo the words, feeling utterly right, utterly true. Not family obligations or forced loyalty, but a conscious choice. Later, curled on the plush sofa with my journal, the leather soft beneath my fingers, I find myself reflecting on my former addiction to being needed, to being the fixer. Dr. Croft had helped me see the insidious pattern. How I measured my worth by how much I could give, how desperately I sought validation through self-sacrifice. Worth is inherent, not earned through financial support, I write, the pen scratching softly against the page. My value exists independent of my utility to others. The boundaries I'd meticulously built extended far beyond my family now. Last week, I had confidently declined joining a client dinner without inventing a single excuse. I'm not available that evening. Was enough. The simple power of no still occasionally surprised me with its profound efficacy. My retirement fund, once decimated by the $30,000 withdrawal for Harrison's emergency surgery and countless other self-inflicted crises, had been steadily rebuilding, each automatic transfer a quiet, consistent investment in myself, something the old Camille would have found impossibly selfish, impossibly indulgent. Dr. Croft's words from our final session echo in my mind, a comforting refrain. You've done the work, Camille. The tools are yours now. Her graduation gift to me, a small, elegant brass compass, engraved with "Find Your Own True North," sits on my bookshelf, a tangible touchstone of my transformation. Tomorrow Julian and his partner are coming for dinner. Our friendship, a testament to resilience, has survived the breakup and my tumultuous transformation. He had been right about my family all along, but never once, not even in the darkest moments, had he ever said, "I told you so." Instead, he had quietly, steadfastly, become an integral part of the chosen family that had replaced my biological one. At the office, I've started mentoring a young, promising analyst named Emma. I recognized the signs immediately: the constant phone checks, the quiet anxiety that lurked beneath her professional demeanor, the way she apologized profusely for taking a single personal day. When she mentioned liquidating her investments to help her brother with just one more bailout, I didn't immediately share my own harrowing story. Instead, I connected her with resources on financial boundaries and emotional manipulation. Her grateful email afterwards simply read, "No one's ever understood before. Harrison calls occasionally." His individual therapy, I've learned, has helped him establish some much-needed independence from Eleonora. Our conversations are now respectful, focused genuinely on him and me, never on what I can provide. Spencer's emails have stopped entirely, the wellspring of his entitlement finally running dry. Preston remained distant, still unable to view me as anything but a resource that had, in his eyes, cruelly betrayed him. Eleonora remains unchanged, her narcissistic patterns unbroken, but her power over me has utterly dissolved. Her manipulations are transparent now, almost comical in their predictability, utterly harmless. Rowan joins me on the balcony as night falls completely, the city a glittering tapestry beneath us. We discuss weekend plans, future dreams, small, intimate conversations, unburdened by financial obligations to others, free from the shadow of past hurts. Freedom isn't about cutting ties, I say, watching the city lights shimmer below, a boundless sea of possibility. It's about having the choice to set terms. His hand finds mine, a warm, comforting presence, as I delete yet another blocked voicemail with my free thumb, a final, effortless dismissal. The champagne catches the last golden light as I raise it. To us, I say again, my voice filled with a profound gratitude. I knew now, with absolute certainty, that us can include only those who bring genuine value, mutual respect, and authentic connection to my life, not those who merely seek to extract from it. The city sparkles below, an endless vista of opportunity stretching outward. For the first time, the future feels like an open road rather than a confined, suffocating box. And I am finally, completely, gloriously free to choose my own direction.